All right, so this is going to be day number 5, and we're actually going to be going over day number 8 and 9 for Nautobot's 100 Days of Code. And essentially, both of these days we're going over is just data quality jobs, and it's essentially kind of getting some input from the user and checking your actual environment using Django ORM filtering system to kind of either find devices that don't abide by having a serial, or the IP is missing, or platform is missing, or you can even use actual like host name validation using like regex, making sure that the actual name has to follow some type of convention. So I'm gonna do something similar to this and kind of show you a way that I would actually write a job that is more related to data quality. So let's get started. Do, 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 do. All right, so starting off, I'm going to copy basically all of this just for now, and I'll go to data quality and I'll make this short. And for right now, I will do a pass for this, and I'll call this data quality jobs. Data quality job. And this will be called data quality job. This will take in a job, and that's about it. Um, Here for the meta, I'm going to do class meta, and I'm going to do data quality jobs, plural, plural. I'll leave this as single. I'll put this for performs on devices, performs data quality checks on devices based on predefined criteria. And I'll leave that like that. So essentially what I'm going to do here is in the actual 100 days to code, they had, verify serial, verify primary IP, verify platform. And then they also have like verify host name as well. And just make sure that the names abide by certain standards. Like organizations go based on like location, um, and some type of number or something at the end. So I'll do something similar to this. But for now, I'm going to do what they did, which is locations check. And that's what they shared across all the other um, jobs. So I will do that here and remove the pass. And I'll just define the run method, and I will actually just put location to check location. And I do not need none of this, but I will go. I do not need all of this. And I will do this device filter locations to check. And I will go up here and import both of these. There we go. All right. So I went ahead and imported location, and the crew params has devices equals true. And basically, if I do this, it will actually let me register this job, and I'll just do that. And let me just add this job here. All right. So that's that. Let me just actually add this device or this job to Nautobot. All right. So this kind of gets us started. Demo quality jobs. Of course, it starts off disabled. I'll go ahead and enable it now. All right. So this job, all it's doing is locations to check. And you can see here, it really filters down the locations. On my previous video, I showed that there was a hierarchy of information, right? Like North America, Texas, Austin, and DFW. Since depending on your organization, you're not going to have devices that are assigned to the entire state. You will kind of always be in some type of data center. If you add that query parameter there, it limits that option so that you will only see those particular things. Now, granted, you could still do some hierarchical kind of um, region, states, and then locations, and then only show locations that have devices in it, so that you don't have to see all of these. Because if you work in a global company, you might have, more than two here. You might have like 50 or 100 locations, and you can also filter that down even further. But for this sake of this demo, we'll have two locations here to check. So that is the very first thing, right? You pick a location, DFW, Austin, and I will actually create a new location just on the fly. It's a data center that's in Texas, and I'll call this ELP, and the status of this is active. And I will go ahead and create this. So now I have three locations, and in my job, if I refresh it, you will still only see two because there's no devices assigned to that location. So back to the code. On the Nautobot implementation code, they were checking a couple things. They were making sure that there's a serial number. So they got the filter locations, right? And checked if there was a serial number. So for every device in the location, it says, I am checking for the serial number. And then it checks if serial number equals blank, then it logs an error. Else it shows you what the actual serial number is. Same thing for the primary IP. If the primary IP is none, then you do that, or else you log the IP. Platform, same thing. If platform is none, you do that and you log it out. So I'm going to use a similar logic to this, but instead of having this be three separate jobs, what I'm actually going to do is create choices for this. So I like to do this with jobs, um, uh, data, um, data validation, and I like to do this for things that are related, but you want to kind of keep it in a simpler to use job instead of having three separate jobs that are, having to do three different things. The only downside to doing it the way that I'm going to show you is when you run the job, you will only see, if I go to jobs and I go to queues, sorry, if I go to results, you will see it based on the name, and you won't necessarily know what you ran, right? Because it's going to be a generic name, like my name, data quality jobs. You will know what the selection is. But if you want to keep it easier for the user not to have to go through three different jobs and select something, then this is kind of how you can do it about. So I can say here serial number, and I can say check serial, and I can have choices here, or you can pick multiple choices. Another thing that you can do is you can just make this even easier. Instead of providing choices, you can say serial check, and you can say a boulevard. Yep. And I can go up here, and I can say, IP check. Yep. And then I can say platform check. And now, instead of you having to define choices and having multiple choices within it, I can have something that says they are just checks, right? They are just checks, and I don't like how that looks. Um, there we go. IP address check, serial check, and I just give a description of what it is. And you can have it so you can, when you schedule this job, you can have certain ones run, right, at certain times, or you can have user check only certain things. But you can keep the same logic as something that, you know, for the 100 days of code that they were showing, where you have three separate jobs, serial, primary, platform. And it's a way to kind of keep the same logic in just one data quality jobs, where you can have a report. The cool thing about this is you can have this job send like an email or some notification, and based on the flag that you select, then you can change like the file that it outputs. So we'll do this and we'll create a CSV. I just won't email it because I'm working on my local development. But we can have something that says, you know, if you check this, I will find the data and the queries and everything. And the data that I get, I'll spit out a CSV with the information, and I'll call it, you know, timestamp of today, serial check, and then I'll put the location that we picked so that you can have a report of that particular site. So we'll kind of go through that here shortly. So with that here, and with that being said, now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to copy paste information that's here. And I'm going to copy paste this. This is for the verified platform. And I'll put define check platform, check device platform, self. And I'm going to put um, uh, devices. And this is actually a, nope, I need this to be, well, that's fine. Um, this is just checking if it's none, so I actually need this. And this will be gone. So if I go here and I say if, and I'll put um, serial check, IP check, keyword arguments, and I'll put if serial check, check serial numbers. If IP check, if platform check, and this is where it will do. I'll actually remove this because that's not what it is. It's a query. So I will leave that for this. I'll add those here just for the sake of it. Check serial pass, define check devices pass. So just based on this, we will have this job run our little kind of data integrity. So if I go to DFW, I'll check all of them. I should only see the platform check. And if I hit DFW, we'll see right here. Device 01 does not have a platform check, right? Checking device 01. So this is a device, platform check, it failed, data quality checks completed, right? What I would also do here is, since this query is being selected once, I just pass that across the board. And I would actually put devices. I would actually go in here and put self-logger info, and that way you have more information. That way when I go here, I can get a quick found 3 devices in location, right? And what I would actually do as well, just to make this easier for the user, I'll put location to check, refresh this, and now if I rerun it for DFW, you'll see found 3 locations in DFW, device. If I go into this particular location, you'll see that there's only, there's 3 devices. But this failed. And the reason why this failed is when I copy pasted the job from network to code, they were looping through and returning this, and I actually don't want to return it. I want to continue the process. So if it does not have a platform, great. I still don't want to error out because I'm going to be doing something with it afterwards. So now that I run it, I should see three different inputs. So device one, device two, device three, obviously they do not have a platform because I haven't set that for any of them. So with that, let's go ahead and quickly do the other three logic that they have. So they have this logic here, and I'll pass that in, and I'll do that. I won't return. And this is the object device, that's fine. And then last one here is this particular one for the serial. And again, serial, yep, logger, logger, and that should be all we need. So now, if I rerun this job for DFW, we should see a lot more inputs, and serial, fail, fail, fail. Does not have an IP configured because I have no data for any of these guys. So you can have something here that logs all this stuff, and that's great. The second thing that we can do is we can go a step further and say something like remediate, right? Let's say for your job, if it does not have a platform, you can have something in the back end that is a default platform based on a device, based on a location. You can also have an IP check. Hey, this does not have an IP. And if your business logic says assign the first available IP, you can also do that within the Nautobot job. But for the sake of this, we are just going to create a CSV for every one of these things. So how we do that for this is once we loop to do this information here, I need to create a CSV file. So to do that, I will go after all of this here is done. So let's get started with that. All right. So to make this have a CSV functionality, I just went ahead and did some boilerplate code. So I'm just going to say it's super simple. I'm just in the actual check device serial. I'm just writing the headers that I want. So device name, serial number, validation result, sorry. So I basically append the row. So if it's missing, I put missing. If it's valid, I put valid serial. Nothing crazy. And then I'm just returning a CSV payload, which is a function down here that just kind of makes it into a CSV string. And after that, I basically call the create CSV file, which is a built-in Nautobot job function, and it goes down here and it uses that create file, and that's just the content string byte to do that. And I'm basically passing in the data, a string, and then the check performed, so that I can actually change the name of the file as well as the location of the object. So I'm going to do that real quick for all of these headers, device, validation, rows. Um, and I will do append rows and return. That works. And I'll do the same for this one. And obviously, the more different these are, um, it won't be as simple as just rows and columns. Like these won't all, they look very similar right now, but depending on what you're trying to solve, you might have more info here, like device type and stuff related to a device. If you have here, you'd have like prefix and maybe um, the next available IP that you can provide the user. So this is just for the sake of simplicity. So after I add that, the only thing I did was I added the location to check variable as a self object. That way I can just use it across the board. But if I run this and I add a check to all of these, I'll do it just for a US Austin, and I run this, you'll see that I have only one device in this location, right? And I just made that so it's easier. So one device, and I ran that. It did obviously the logging messages and whatnot. And then I have three different files for Austin, right? Austin, data quality, IP check, platform check, serial check. So you can have something in the back end that says once this is complete, and if I have anything here that involves, um, if I do a check and any of the rows have missing, right, or have failed, but if you come up with a convention like I did that says valid for it, missing platform, there we go, then you can say, hey, I have at least one field within this IP check that has missing platform. Send me an email so that I can come and look at this, or send me this entire file as an email, right? So if I go into one of those, serial check, and I go down here just to see it, it's just a simple, CSV file, right? The device, serial number obviously is blank, validation result, missing serial, right? Um, versus if we were to have actual information on these things, then you would be able to see. But this is a way that you can run some type of job that has this. Like I said, the only downside really is that it will come across as just one job. So you won't know what you picked unless you click on it. But you can easily solve that by having something in the back end in the Nautobot job that will just notify you of it. And it also gives the ability to the person to kind of choose what check to do. Um, but as well, you can have three different jobs that do the same thing. But this is something that you can do quickly to kind of help out for this. So something that we can also add is, let's say it does not have a primary IPv4, right? Does not have a primary IPv4. What we can do is, let's assume that we go to IPAM and I go to prefixes. This one right here, global, and we're going to say that this is in the locations. Actually, don't have locations, none. That's fine. I need to add the location to this. So let me go to locations. Let me go to Dallas, Fort Worth. All right. So let me go to locations. Sorry, location types, data center, and I will put this for prefix. That way I can choose the prefix picked here. Um, so let's assuming this is what you can do. So now if I go to locations here, I'll be able to pick one of those. So I'll pick Austin just because that one's the one that has no information. So now I can say Austin, and this is the global delivery. So let me quickly get into the code so I can show you kind of what you could do in something with data validation. Got in some pre-written code here, and essentially this is what we're going to do. So you can have something where, if the primary IP is, or primary IP is none, what you can do is then you can go into the actual prefix, right? So prefix has a filter for the location. So you can say, okay, it doesn't have an IP. Let's just try to help the user out here. Let's just go to the prefix, filter by the location, right? Get the prefix object, and then get the first available IP, and then suggest it to the user. So I log it, and then I also, what I'm actually not going to do here, I'm actually going to show the prefix object itself, and I will append it to the actual CSV file. If there's no available, same thing, I'll log it and I'll add it there, else then I'll do another error or CSV output. So in this case, if I go here and I am only going to do IP check just for the sake of this, if I run it, I'm going to say does not have a primary IP configured, suggested available IP address 01, right? Because I don't have a gateway or anything, and I tell you this is a prefix where you can find this. So if I go to that prefix, you will see this is where it's at. You can see the available IPs. It's got all of them because I have nothing assigned here. And so that's something that you can give to the user. So when they actually go ahead and see your CSV file, they will get something similar to that. that they can review, right? Device 4, primary PV is an A, validation result is missing primary PV, suggested this, right? So that is something else that you can do to kind of help out the user, provide more meaningful information, as well as so that they can know what to do if this doesn't work, right? Data validation checks complete. You can also have something that says if any of these fail, then instead of saying complete, say it's a failure. That just depends on kind of what you want to assess or describe as a status based on your criteria of the jobs. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed.